Yeah, nice to meet you.
Rio, do you think you could share your screen, or is Heidi on to share it so we could put up the Going Home Coalition?
Right.
The first slide would be helpful.
Hi, everyone who's joining us. We're just waiting for everyone to filter in and then we will get started. Can you all see my screen?
I'm seeing you.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
we don't
not your
see it.
screen.
weird. Okay, give me 1 second. How about now?
There you go.
Great.
And if
Rio,
you want to put it
Jennifer.
in full, sorry.
Yes, I will. I'm just going to, as everyone is filtering in, I am dropping our captioning link into the chat. That's going to allow you to see the captioning provided by our friend Deb tonight. And I was hoping to pin that message. Would one of the other co-hosts be able to pin the captioning towards the top of the chat? And I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we can give people until 5:03 to come on in.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Rio, it says Jennifer's in. I don't know if you can make her co-host with the.
Sure. Anyone who's joining us, this is my first time hosting, so you'll just have to give me a little bit of grace. The only option I have is to promote her to panelist.
Yes,
Is that correct? Okay,
we can do
Yep.
that.
Do
Okay.
it.
Great. Jennifer, you should be able to be seen on the screen.
I see her.
I see her.
I am here
Amazing. Okay, great.
and I am getting Tavarus connected with us as well. So I'll be on the screen in just a moment.
Great.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm going to go ahead and share the intro screen. And since we're just waiting for a few more seconds until Tavarus joins us, we can get started at 5:05. And thank you everyone for your patience as we are getting everything figured out.
Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
Do you feel ready to get started, Jennifer? Are we still waiting on Tavarus?
I am looking to see if he has been able to join us or not.
Sure.
It looks like we have Tavarus, and can we promote him?
Yes.
The panelist.
That'd
Excellent.
be great.
Okay, Tavarus, you should be a panelist, maybe. Let me try one more time.
There he is.
Great. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna pass things off to Samantha to open us up, and then we'll move forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rio. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Going Home Coalition meeting. This is a very special meeting for many, many reasons, but tonight we are so thrilled here at the Arc of Illinois to introduce you to Rio Godwin Perez. So as everyone knows, Rio uses they, them pronouns, and I have to share that the interview process is a long and lengthy one. So to find Rio has been such a gift to us here at the Arc of Illinois, and they have hit the ground, not running, but full out sprint, like a Gulfstream on the runway level of sprint, and we could not be more honored. And it's so important to share that what really impressed me about Rio and impressed the team here was the incredible energy, the extensive experience, and the genuine belief that self-advocacy will create a stronger Illinois, just like all of us on this meeting believe as well. They are an accomplished artist, an educator, an organizer, incredibly passionate about creating inclusive and equitable spaces for people with and without disabilities, just a stronger world overall. And they've developed programs that bring arts to communities, to organize for social justice, built mutual aid, built connections that uplift marginalized members and voices. And that is why I knew they were going to be the most perfect fit. So it is so important if you can get those reactions and show that love to Rio and thank them so much. And this is officially their first Going Home Coalition meeting. And we just threw you right in there, like I said, Gulfstream on the runway. So thank you, Rio. Thank you for your energy. We're so proud, so proud to have you. And it's so important to note how honored we are to have Jennifer here, has been such a crucial part of this transition, and her energy, her efforts, and her expertise have made this such an amazing opportunity for this organization and beyond. So thank you both so much. We are so excited, and I'm going to zip it and give this mic back to you, Rio. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was so kind, and I am very honored to be here. Towards the end of today's meeting, you guys will be able to hear a little bit more from me, read a bit about my bio. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pass things off to the one and only Jennifer Sands right now.
Well, welcome everyone. And I'm delighted because that was the kind of introduction I have been hoping that Rio would get. So Samantha, thank you so much for joining us tonight and providing that. I am ready for the slides if we can pull those up. I believe we should have in the chat, if there isn't, hopefully there will be soon a pinned link so that we've got some, I don't apologize because I had some technical difficulty getting in. I don't know if you've gone over this or not, but we've got like a link to a document for just making our meetings great if you want to check that out. And I'm here today. My job is to introduce Tavarus, and Tavarus is going to be our host. I'm waiting for our slides, but I will just play it by ear if we don't get them. I've been really enjoyed working with Tavarus. He's been, I got to meet him first at SUSO, where he was manning the mic there and really giving everybody an opportunity to get up and speak up and speak out. He's hosted for us before, and we have a whole lot of other of his accomplishments, but I don't know them off the top of my head. So
Sorry, can you not see my screen,
I
Jennifer?
cannot, let me
Oh.
see.
Can
Oh, wait, here we go. Got it. Tavarus uses his pronouns. He's a longtime dedicated self-advocate and leader in the Illinois disability community. He's a former chair of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, serves on the Arc of Illinois Board of Directors and Executive Committee. He's a former member of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. He is a Partners in Policy Making graduate, an experienced speaker at state and national conferences, and a longtime maintenance team staff member at New Star in Chicago Heights, Illinois. And he's going to be our host today, going over our agenda and all sorts of other things. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tavarus.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's evening was good was good this evening. Let's get right into it. Um, the presentation is Find Your Voice by Gary Arnold. Gary Arnold is not only amazing what he do, he's also, I believe, he's a current a story slam champion, I believe. I mean, he could correct it once he get on and all that. And then we're gonna have question and answer session. Then we're gonna have views and discussion examples of storytelling. And then if Rio didn't give an amazing introduction already, he's gonna give one at the end of the day, and he's gonna tell what's coming up in November. Gary Arnold, he promotes leadership, includes in the disability community. Former roles, assets living, public affairs manager, and progress center program director, identifies as a person, identifies as a disability and person with Down form, served 11 years on a Little People American board, and he was the president from 2011 to 2017. He was a chair of Oak Park Disability Associates Community from 2022 to 2025. He lives in Oak Park with his wife Katie and has a son. Enjoys writing, storytelling, and submitted open mic. So everybody, Gary Arnold, the story slam champion.
Thank you so much, Tavarus. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited to be here to present tonight. So thank you, Tavarus. Thank you to the Going Home Coalition. And thank you to all of you attending today. I'm looking forward to this. My presentation within this hour of the Going Home Coalition meeting minus the Q&A is going to be about 20 minutes. So that will just give you a little bit of a framework for how things will move along. Can you move to the next slide, please, Rio? And this will be the agenda I'll follow within my piece of the presentation of the meeting tonight. We're going to talk about why we are here today. We're going to have a brief kind of icebreaker activity. Then I'm going to go into a presentation around storytelling tips, strategies, and guidance. If there's time, I'm gonna share kind of one anecdote with a lesson and a takeaway about sharing your story, about storytelling, and then we'll open it up with Tavarus for questions and answers. So that is the plan for me tonight, and we can dive right into it. So next slide, please, Rio. All right. So on this next slide here, it has a headline, Why Are We Here Today? And on the right, there is an image of, looks like they're getting set for some kind of event where they're going to be serving a meal of some kind. It looks like it's set up at a gallery. There's 3 or 4 tables there with tablecloths and table runners, and then some kind of centerpieces on some of the tables. And then the content of the text of the slide on the left, it says, "Why are we here today?" And then the text reads, "The goal of this webinar, the goal here today is to identify storytelling strategies and to share some storytelling resources." The hope is that these strategies and resources will help us tell our story effectively when we are educating the public and decision makers about issues that impact our community. Next slide, please. And I want to start with an activity. And I'm going to ask a question and then two specific questions. And I'd like everyone to think about this, think about stories, and you can put your responses in the chat. If the chat doesn't work for you, just feel free to just think about it in your head. And I don't. It looks like we might not have capacity to go off of mute and ask questions. So if you could just like think about this, or if you're able to share and you'd like to share, feel free to put this in the chat. And the guidance I have, what I'd like people to participate in, is to think about a powerful story that you once heard. Um, and then think about, answer these two specific questions. What is it about that story that you liked? And then why is it that you thought the story was powerful? Why do you remember that story? So if everyone can just think about that for about 30 seconds, and then, if you're welcome to, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, this is Gary speaking. Um, so Jennifer, question for you, or Rio or Greg. Do attendees have the capacity to like go off of mute and talk if they can't use the chat?
I believe that somebody who has host controls can
Oh.
unmute them.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. For now, then we'll just keep it like this, and maybe we can share later during the Q&A. But so I'll just read things from the chat. Sebastian wrote, "It's something I'd want to do, but don't have or didn't have the courage. And there was something that I could take away from it to apply to my own life. I really like that. Something I could take away to it to apply to my own life." Catherine wrote, "Authenticity. Story was real." We'll just take about 30 seconds more if anyone else wants to put in something in the chat. And while we're saying that, I just want to circle back to what Sebastian said. I really like that piece about the something that I could take away from it that was real, or apply to my own life. I heard a person tell a story about going to see Wicked, the movie version of it recently, and they were skeptical at first, but they ended up going to see it 14 times. and they did it because they related so much to one of the characters, the Wicked Witch of the West character, who in that movie is not known that way. But I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name correctly. But like kind of her status as an outsider. That's something that this person really related to, and it resonated so strongly that it brought her back to that movie theater more than a dozen different times. Jennifer wrote, the story helped me see, with "see" in quotes, what the storyteller was describing. Okay, great. All right. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing and for thinking about that. Oh, we got one more for Bridget. I'll share here. "I think that by telling a powerful story, could impact inclusion, belonging in the community. It could lead to connection." Yeah, storytelling is a great way to build those connections and all these things that you just said, Bridget. So thank you so much for contributing. And I think and again, thanks to everyone for participating. And I think all of us, can probably think of an example of a story that really stuck with us. And I think that just speaks to how powerful it can be, and how we can utilize it as a community, as a tool, when we're working for things like inclusion and belonging in the community, as Bridget said in the chat. All right, can we move to the next slide, please? All right, so now I'm going to move into my piece of the presentation and go over some storytelling strategies, tips, and guidance. And there's a slide here with an image. It's a book that's face down. It's kind of open, and it's lying face down on a beach mat with a pair of sunglasses next to it. And I also wrote in it, to kind of, as we're going through this, kind of think about this guidance and think about these strategies and tips and what we're talking about in the context of meeting with your legislator or a group of legislators or testifying, and then what you're going to be doing in front of that legislator or with that legislator is sharing a story about yourself. So next slide, please. All right. On this next slide here, the heading is developing your story. So the next few slides all have that same heading of developing your story. And the image here is open book again. This time it's not face down, it's face up and lying on top. So within that face up book that's open is a quill, so like a writing instrument that I think is called a quill, and then a bottle of ink for that quill. So you can use that tool to write your story. And then the two sentences here. One says, it's a first steps for developing your story. Identify an issue that's important to you and that affects you. Pick an issue that represents something you want to protect or something that you want to change. And then underneath that, the next kind of paragraph or group of sentences says, think about how you are affected personally by that issue. Identify an experience you had that demonstrates how this issue impacts you personally. So if you're thinking about this in the context of setting up a meeting with the legislator, find an issue that's important to you, that affects you, that you want to have a conversation with that legislator about, and then as taking a step, the next step there, think about an experience that you had that kind of demonstrates the importance of that issue. Think about how that issue impacts you. Next slide, please. And then this is the hard part when you're developing your story. This next slide, there's no images. It's all text content. The headline again is developing your story, and it reads: once you've identified an issue and how it impacts you, think about this. If you're going to talk with somebody or a group of people about this subject and your experience with this subject, and then there's a list of points below it. So this is a series of 5 different questions to think about in the context of that issue that you picked and your experience, or like how that issue impacts you. And again, think about it in terms of like you're going to have a meeting where, in this case, let's talk about it as if we're going to meet with a legislator. So first of all, like, how would you introduce yourself? You couldn't just like go to a meeting and then just jump right in telling this story. You'd have to kind of introduce yourself and who you are and why you're there. So think about how you would introduce yourself to your audience. Then think about how you would explain this issue to somebody. So even though you are very familiar with this issue, and maybe that legislator is familiar with that issue, it would still be, I think, worthwhile and maybe a good idea to kind of give a little background about the issue that you're about to talk about. And then think about like what would you say? You have an idea in your head about like your experience related to that issue and how it impacts you. But how would you put that into words? So start thinking about that. So how would you say, what would you say when talking about your experience with that issue? And then the fourth point is, how would you stress that this issue is important to you? Maybe it comes through with point number 3 just by talking about your experience. Maybe your audience could just infer or figure out that this issue is really important. But just to be sure, how would you want to stress that this issue is really important to you? And then, particularly if we're meeting with legislators and you're setting this up for a legislator, you want that legislator to take action. You want that legislator to be part of a solution, whether that be making a change or protecting something. So think about, like, how would you ask your audience to be part of that solution? So once you start thinking about all of that stuff, which is not easy as it is, trying to put all those things into words, then you want to start to organize your thoughts. So start, for you, that might work by just thinking about them a lot in your head. Maybe that works by writing them down on paper or putting them in a computer. Maybe that works by audio recording it on a phone or some other kind of device. Maybe that works by asking somebody else to write these things down for you. So whatever works for you, start to organize your thoughts and get them down in a way that you can capture them. And then next slide, please. All right. So now it gets really hard. It was hard enough to try to like organize your thoughts and try to capture them in some way. Now you want to kind of put them together to really develop your story. And that is again, the headline on this slide, developing your story, the next steps. So, and then there's 4 points here. The first one says, after you have your thoughts organized, really study them. Practice or talk about them out loud. And the third point says, practice enough so that you're very familiar with the ideas that you have written down. Practice until you feel comfortable talking about them in a meeting or talking about them with a friend or a family member. And then the final point here, I want to give a caveat here or say that, like, don't think of this as a rule or just because I'm saying it here. What it says is don't try to memorize it, because for some people maybe that's what works. But my kind of guidance in terms of what I think works and might be helpful is don't try to memorize so much as to really learn your content. And become very familiar with the ideas so you can talk about them comfortably. And the reason I say personally, don't try to memorize, is I've been in experiences before where I've memorized something and I'm going over it and there's like one word, I say the word wrong or I forget it. And then I backtrack to try to correct myself. And that kind of creates this gap in attention or a gap in the momentum that has been built as you're kind of sharing in the midst of this meeting. And that it might do no harm at all. It probably is fine, but you have the potential there of losing momentarily your audience, and then you have to regain their attention. And chances are that that word that you forgot, or in my case where I've forgotten many times before and I backtrack and I try to remember it, it's not going to matter. No one knows that I forgot that word or I used a different word in its place. Chances are no one's going to notice. So that's why I give the advice is, like, to the extent that you can, you try to just be comfortable with it. And you're not going to say the same story exactly the same with the same words every time, but the ideas are going to be the same and the points are going to be the same. And that, in my opinion, is what's really important. So next slide, please. All right. So after you have that all together, then you want to really kind of reinforce what you're talking about. And you can do that by throwing in some research. So let's say you're talking about home and community-based services, and you can talk about your experience about how important they are. But then, in addition to showing how important they are to you, you want to show how important they are to hundreds, thousands of people in Illinois also. And so that's where the research comes in. Do a little bit of research on the issue, find out numbers, find out how many people that the issue you want to talk about impacts. And then that way you're making the point to the legislator, it's not just about me, this is about so many people in Illinois. And you can impact not just me, but so many people in Illinois if you take action on this issue. Next slide, please. All right, and then finally, make your pitch. You've told your story, you've backed it up with research, you've set up the issue at the beginning, this is what I want to talk about, and then you circle back at the end to that issue that you're talking about, and you come up with a way that they can be a part of the solution. So maybe it's like, I work at the Council on Developmental Disabilities. And so when we have meetings, if I'm meeting as a council member, I can't say vote for this or vote for that, but I can say, this is why we think, home and community-based services are really important for the community. And we hope that, you learn more about them, and then you can, learn also how important they are for the community. And then, hopefully then they'll decide to take steps to protect it. If you're in a position where you can, support legislation or ask somebody to vote against legislation, then you can add that to your pitch. So the pitch can look a number of different ways, but really add one at the end so that you give them an opportunity to be part of the solution. And next slide, please. All right. So as a review, I'm moving kind of quickly along, so I apologize. I'm going longer on everything than I anticipated. So as a review, when you've set up, you've got your story, and then when you have a chance to tell your story, make sure you do these things. Make sure you introduce yourself. Your audience needs to know who you are. Introduce the issue. They might not know the issue the same way that you do. So make sure everyone's on the same page and has an understanding of the issue and what the problem might be. Tell a personal story that illuminates why that issue is important to you. Number 4, link your story to data that shows your story is just one of many stories across Illinois. And then finally, circle back to that issue and make an ask. Ask them to take action on it. Give that audience opportunity to be part of the solution that you can help that can help the Illinois community. Next slide, please. Here, just some tips. I have a suggestion box, image of a suggestion box on the right, and then a list of 6 tips. Number 1, pick a subject that is important to you, something you want to talk about, something you know about. Even if you know about it, research it, find out more about it. Number 3, tell a story in a way that you are comfortable. Number 4, be honest. If you're engaged, if that story resonates with you, you don't have to pump it up in a way that might not be as honest. Make sure you're honest about it. Know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Know if you're talking to a legislator who maybe has been supportive of this issue in the past or has not been supportive of that issue in the past. That might affect how you talk about it with them. And this is very relevant right now because my timer just went off of 20 minutes. Know how much time you have when you set up a meeting with somebody, so you can make sure your story or your script fits into that time frame. And next slide, please. All right, I got some of my tips from these resources today. I think all this is going to be shared with everybody, but these are some resources where if you want to go back and look at some of these things or go on your own more research, these might be helpful. And next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to go over a little bit. I'm sorry, I hope we can make up for it. One thing I just want to leave you with is Tavarus mentioned, I like going to these open mics these days, and sometimes I enter competitions nowadays. And I want to share one thing. I went to this open mic once, And the last person who spoke that night, she had never told a story before in front of an audience. And she went up there and she was so natural. She was so good. It's like she had this story inside of her that was like ready to come out, bursting to come out. And it was so good. It was, in my opinion, the best story. There were like 10 people who told stories that night, and hers was the best one. Then, if you fast forward like 2 or 3 months later, she was invited to come and tell that same story at not an open mic, but at an event where there was like 5 storytellers who were lined up. So like she was on the bill, and she was one of the scheduled storytellers. She told that same story that night, and in my opinion, that story was not as good that second time. And I don't know why, I exactly why, but I have, if I were to venture a guess, it would be because she got advice from people, or she scripted it in a way that she hadn't that first night. And all of those things, whatever it was, took away from her own authenticity. And so I recommend that when you prepare for stuff, you get advice and you take advice from people, but stay true to like what feels right with you. Tell that story in your own way. Because if you veer away from that, then you're going to lose a piece of it and people might be able to read that. So, all right. So, next slide, please. All right. So I'm going to bring Tavarus back in. We're going to open it up for some questions and discussion now before moving into our next piece. And want to thank everyone so much for your time and for listening, and apologize I went a few minutes over.
Well, that's the art of storytelling. Sometimes we just all passionate to it. It goes over, so it's quite all right. I mean, it happens sometimes. So, we have any questions in this dis- discussions for Gary? First, by the way, amazing job on your storytelling, by the way. But if any questions, it's for Gary. Now it's the time to ask me.
Oh, I
Thanks.
see. Oh, do you see that, Tavares, in the
Yeah,
chat?
yeah. Go ahead. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
So,
okay. How do you personally deal with stage fright? And then Amber put, great cue. Great question. I agree. Um, I think everyone's got different strategies. Mine strategy is to get really familiar with the content. Know it, backwards and forwards so you can tell it naturally. And practice, 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 and practice in front of people. That's hard on its own, to do that. But it's helpful, I think, when you get into the situation where you have to do it in real life. So that's my advice.
and we got one for JJ. And he said, "Will recording oneself help when practicing telling the story?"
Well, in my opinion, that all has to do with how you like your voice. To this day, I hear adults, my age and maybe older, say that they're, still really uncomfortable with their voice, the sound of their voice, when they hear it recorded, because it sounds differently when they hear themselves speaking. So I think that depends on the individual, if you're comfortable with that. But I think there's definitely some pluses there, because you can hear it then as an audience member. When you're just kind of practicing saying it aloud, you're not really hearing it as an audience member, to the extent that you could if you record it and then listen to it, especially if you like record it and then give it a little bit of time and then listen to it. So you're kind of removed from it a little bit. So I would say if you're comfortable with it and it's not going to turn you off to hear the sound of your own voice, then it sounds like a good strategy to me.
I agree with that. And then Jennifer said, Has she ever heard of people being in writing clubs? Have you been in a storytelling club? Have any thoughts about it? You think it would be helpful?
Yeah, besides open mics or places where they have storytelling events, I haven't heard of something called a storytelling club before, but I think there is definitely room, and it sounds like that you're onto something there, where it would be something that would be fun to do, and it'd be something that is helpful. It would definitely be helpful to do for people to, kind of work on their stories and share their stories with others and get feedback from an audience and that could definitely be a way of making the story stronger.
What about like book clubs that involve storytelling and all it?
Well, yeah, a book club. In a way, you can think about it. You could make the case that we're always telling stories, whether we're in a book club, on a session like this, or I have a check-in with my manager almost every day, and we usually kick off that session but with telling stories. What did you do over the weekend? What did you do last night? How's your morning been going? We're always telling stories. So book club could serve that purpose. Oh, Toastmasters. Somebody just put in the chat. That is a very that's a real thing, and that's like kind of like a storytelling club. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I know we're on the time schedule. Um, I think Jennifer just said, excellent point. Thank you both, Gary and Nancy. I think we go to the next agenda on the slide. And now we're going to have a couple of storytelling examples, starting with Tavarus Wesley. Can't hear for some reason.
Sorry, can you all hear the video or no?
No.
Let's see.
On behalf of people
How about now?
yes, on how they feel about this government shutdown. Come to some agreement. If we can't come to agreement for yourselves, at least come to people that is really struggling with this. I get some of y'all feel like you're doing the shutdown because the numbers is high and all that. And I agree, that it can impact a lot of people's lives, but come to agreement that, it will at least, spare some people, come to agreement that some people might not be great okay with it, how you doing things, but shutting down everything is only gonna make it harder for people. It's only gonna make them tougher. You're gonna have crimes committed out here behind this shutdown. So let's come to some agreement. Yes, the bill is crazy. Yes, the numbers is ridiculous. But having to shut down, that's even more ridiculous. So be the state leaders that I know y'all could be. Come up with some type of bill together. Be the leaders that y'all supposed to be the congressmen, men and women that we supposed both of y'all on the regular every 2 to 4 years We trust y'all in the seats and all that. So get the job done, get the open up, get the job done, so y'all can open government back up, and people can try to live with their lives for the rest of the year. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. I was just about to come to the office. It's good to arrange the elevator. If you have the time I really want to talk to you about this government shutdown stuff that's going on. You know, maybe if you hear my voice at PM about why it's important to end the shutdown, I would love to sit down with you and we can really have a nice discussion about this because this shutdown needs to end because we don't need no more crime starting behind this. So if you have a time and place, give me a date, I'll be there. That guy was like, you know, he was talking about. I didn't get his autograph. Next, I think we got one for Chewy as well.
Tavares, I think we were gonna save Chewy's videos for Wednesdays.
Wednesday. You know what? Okay, I agree with that. So, did anybody got any questions about these videos and all that? If not, we can move to the next. Okay, next up on the agenda.
Hey, Tavares, this is Gary.
Yes.
I had the privilege of watching the video more than once. Can I bring up some questions?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, awesome. Okay. Great job. And kudos to you and to I think 3 other people put together videos like that. Those are awesome to have, and they're great tools for people to use and to demonstrate the importance and the way we can use stories. Some stuff I really liked that you did in it is like there's more than one point where like you're kind of relating. You're trying to relate to your audience, but then also letting them know that there's another, there's another group out there. So you put like, if you can't come to agreement yourselves, like I understand you can't come to an agreement yourselves. You said that a couple of times, I think. But do it for the other people who are really struggling. So you bring in this other group, and then another way you're kind of creating empathy with them is like you said, I get it. I get some of you all and where you're coming from. I think it's easy. Like we can get so upset with legislators, and rightly so, and for the policies that they support and everything. But chances are we might have better success if we try to create some kind of common ground or at least some empathy. And that's what you're saying
exactly
when you say
exactly.
like, I get it, what you have to deal with. Yeah. And then another piece when you said crimes are being committed behind the shutdown, and that I think gets at like where something concrete. You're showing a kind of like a concrete like consequence of what might be happening because of the shutdown. And that's where I think it could be built on a little bit is like, you could like do research previous shutdowns and like, what in previous shutdowns did let's say, violation of accessible parking increase in previous shutdowns? Did burglary, at grocery stores or vandalism, finding statistics that show maybe it increased during previous shutdowns to say this is what could happen here if we continue this. And then though, also I think like you say you're speaking on behalf of people who might not be able to speak for themselves. If you can like try to find 1 or 2 other people and talk about how their suffering because of it, with a specific example. Like maybe, it's almost November, they're going to lose their SNAP benefits. Or a few more months of this, and we don't know what's going to happen with Medicaid, home and community-based services. So kind of, you talked about the community you're representing, but then maybe add one or two examples of somebody, and talk about their specific story in a way.
I actually thought about doing that, but I was trying to keep it under the story minute balance. So
Yeah.
maybe for future reference, I could just try to combat it all into one and all that. Maybe could go for like that, just make it a storytelling like how you just said it, and maybe I could do it that way. So I understand
Yeah.
where you come from.
Yeah, and it's not easy though when you're dealing with such a short time. But great job.
No, it's not.
We have Bob who would like to ask a question, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, I think we got time for one more question.
Okay. Bob, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
And Tavarus, I think you did a good job. I have to agree with Gary what he did, but I just wanted to add that uh, that I am going to take the next step with uh this tomorrow and testify about HCBS tomorrow. So your story about services and other how it affects you and how it affects others is great. Um but my question to you is how long have you been in services and and and, and uh how many other shutdowns have you been a part of?
Let's see. When I really stopped paying attention to the shutdowns and all that, I was involved at least. I would have to really go back and think on that. But for offhand, I know Obama, he had a shutdown. Trump, he had a shutdown before, and I think another president had a shutdown. It wasn't a lot of too many shutdowns that I could remember, but I'm just going off like past history and all that. And I think your second question, how long I've been in this receiver services? Um, I've been receiver services probably did all my life. That I can remember. Gary put some, Greg Washington put some in the check. I think you can find out more information about the shutdown bases and all that. But the more I probably received services all my life, I was fighting for stuff all my life. I just didn't really know it was a thing or something happened. I had to fight to get to school, to high school I wanted to. Because they kept trying to deny me this, deny me that. So it's been a fight all through my life. So I'm going to say probably all my life. Okay, now we need to get to um, the last agenda on the thing for the day before we close out. And thank you for the question, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, Rio is going to finish us out with his amazing uh, art stuff and all. And he's going to talk about the future covered things um, that's coming up. Everybody, Rio Goodwin Perez.
Hey, thank you so much to Gary and Tavarus for that enlightening presentation. Gary, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share some of your expertise with us. And thank you so much, Tavarus, for being just a really engaging host and really making sure that everyone in the chat is being seen and responded to. You can see here on my screen that I have a bit about my bio. So just a little bit about myself. I am Rio Goodwin Perez. My pronouns are they, them. I am an artist, an educator, and an organizer, and I care a lot about equity and inclusion. I previously was working at an art studio called Arts of Life. Some of you all may be familiar with Arts of Life. It is a professional art studio with for adult artists with IDD. I worked there as a facilitator and developing the home and community programs. And the Arts of Life really cares about creating integrated community spaces for people with and people without disabilities, as a push to include people with disabilities in larger society and to have them recognized for their incredible artistic achievements. I previously was working as a curriculum developer, and I was writing and developing curriculum for um, sorry, my mind just went for elementary schools in the Nashville area. The curriculum that I was designing was social justice oriented, and it was largely focusing on histories and stories of people who are not generally included. So, a lot of histories and stories of people who are BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people who are queer and trans, people with disabilities. Um, and in my personal life, I have worked for many, many years as an organizer, as someone who has organized mutual aid. And that is what I care the most about, is being involved in my community. I'm also a professional artist, and I work a lot in the themes of history, colonization, and diaspora. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I work across a lot of different mediums. I like to call myself an amateur historian. I am Puerto Rican and I study the history of my family's dispossession from the island of Puerto Rico. And I am really excited to work with Going Home Coalition because I really care about centering people with disabilities when we're talking about disability advocacy work. I believe that people with disabilities should be the ones who are exclusively leading the charge and telling us as advocates how we should be supporting them. So I'm really looking forward to creating an equitable, accessible space for people with disabilities to find their voices within the Going Home Coalition. I really am hoping to develop you all as advocates and organizers in your own right, and giving you the platform to be able to have your voices told and heard, not just by your peers, but by people who aren't necessarily part of the fight for disability justice. So that's a little bit about me. Like Tavarus mentioned before, I will be hosting a future Going Home Coalition meeting. I'm actually about to read about it right now so that you can have a little bit more access to me to ask me questions. But first, I want to share about our next meeting coming up, which is the Rev Up Illinois meeting. It's going to be on Monday, November 10th at 5 p.m. and Wednesday, November 12th at 10 a.m. And we will have the one and only Jennifer Sands leading us in how to create a legislator contact plan. She's going to be giving us a bird's eye view of what it looks like to contact your legislators, so that you can become an advocate for yourself and for your community. And then, like I mentioned before, in our Going Home Coalition meeting right at the end of November, we will get to know me a little bit. You guys will hear a little bit more about my story. Maybe I'll share a bit about my art practice, and you all will be able to ask questions of me. If you are interested in contacting any of our speakers today, Gary, Tavarus, or me, you can see our emails right here at the end of this presentation. If you are interested in asking me a question for our November Going Home Coalition meeting, you can send me an email in advance if you won't be able to attend, or if you don't like speaking on camera, you can just shoot me the question to my email and I will make sure that I cover it in my presentation towards the end of November. I wanted to give a special thanks to the ICDD for making SUSO happen. SUSO was incredible this year, so thank you to the team at ICDD. And a special thanks to the HSRI and Coleman Foundation for supporting the Going Home Coalition. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending. This meeting was great. Thank you, everyone, for giving me flexibility regarding my ability to host this Zoom meeting. And thank you so much to Gary and Tavarus for giving just an awesome presentation. Everyone have a good night.
Thanks, Rio. You did a good job.
Thanks.
Sorry, everybody did a great job. Great job, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Everybody have a good evening.
You too.